Joining us now, great to welcome a man who's put together a book here. It's going to help a lot of students, I'm sure. The SAT test is coming up, and it's been changed from what I understand. It's called Up Your Score, the underground guide to outsmarting the test. We're joined today by Larry Berger. And Larry, good to talk with you. How are you?
I'm good. Great to talk with you as well.
I remember back in those days of high school, I guess the junior year, you got to take what they used to call the PSAT, the practice test, and then you had the SAT the next year. Do they still have the practice one?
They sure do. They sure do. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little nerve-wracking, and then of course, they put the pressure on you on the SATs. Now I understand it's changed a lot for this year. They changed it around a little bit, right?
Yeah, this is really the SAT Extreme Makeover Edition. They took it down to the studs and really rebuilt it. And I think it's actually a much better test than it was before, but still one that students need to get ready for, and where an SAT review guide can give them a little help.
Now, you actually wrote a book like this when you were in high school yourself, right, to help people with the test, didn't you?
It is this book, but it was the very first edition of it.
Right.
So what happened was we wrote it as high school students when we were 17 years old. I wrote it with two friends. And then after a few years, we realized that if we wanted all the jokes to still be about things that high school students of that day and age were interested in, we had to hire a new high school student who got a perfect score every couple of years. And so since that was 30 years ago that we wrote the first edition, we've now had 15 of these guest editors who come on board and help us get it ready for the kids of today.
Now, the perfect score, if I remember correctly, used to be 1,800. Then a few years ago, didn't it go to 2,500? Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, no, they required an essay for a few years, and that took the perfect score up to 2,400.
24, okay.
And then now they have made the essay optional again. So you can take the essay if you want, but you don't have to.
Now, the test was always broken down, and I guess it's still the same way. You have the math part and the vocabulary part. What other changes are there? I guess there's no penalty for wrong answers. Is that right?
Yeah, a couple things there. I mean, there used to be a small percent, a small fraction that you'd get off of your score each time you guessed something wrong, and that was to discourage people from guessing randomly and therefore potentially sort of messing with the validity of the test. But what they decided to do now is to just say, nope, if you guess wrong, you get a 0. You don't get the points, but you don't get a negative score for guessing wrong. And that just means that as a student taking this, you should always try to get the right answer, but if you can't get it, you should guess, because remember, you got a 1 in 5 chance of getting it right if you guess. And so to leave it blank is a big mistake on this. And that's one of there's a bunch of simple tricks about how to take the test and make sure you maximize your score. That is the heart and soul of what Up Your Score is all about. We're trying to be a focused book about how to do better on this.
I remember back when I was in high school, there were these books you could get to kind of help you with it, and even courses, I guess, you could take outside of school that would help you with the test. Now, I know you want people to buy this book, but I never thought those books or courses back there really helped you much. I mean, I think your book gives you more tips on how to actually take the test as opposed to study for it.
Yeah, I think that I'm not a big fan of those courses. I think they're expensive, and why would you want to spend $800 on a course when you could get the same information in a sub-$15 book? And so I'm a fan of the book, but also I think it's you go to one of those courses and it's like adding a few hours to school to be there. What we tried to do with this book is to be the voice of another high school student who got through it, did pretty well, and is going to share everything you need to know. And in that sense, kids can get kind of motivated because the book's pretty funny. It's a high school student talking to other high school students, and as a result, they relax a bit about the test. They learn everything they need to know to maximize their score on it, and and they're sort of ready for it because there isn't actually anything they're going to see on it that we haven't told them about.
How about the reading comprehension always got me. After you read about 3 or 4 of those long paragraphs, nothing makes sense. How do you get ready for those?
That's the big challenge. If I had to say the most significant change is there used to be all those SAT vocabulary words that the verbal section of the SAT focused on. There'd be these questions like filial as to avuncular as adumbrate, these words that no one uses in real life. And they've gotten rid of all that on the new test. And what they really are doing is reading comprehension questions of the sort that you were just describing, where there's a long passage and you have to really focus in order to stay awake while you read it. And then there are questions that follow it that are getting at, did you understand it? And most importantly, what they call evidence-based questions. Can you see the evidence that the author is using to make the argument or to establish the point? And so the whole test is now one of those passages, a few questions about it. Another passage, a few questions about it. And the passages will be science and history and argumentative essays, but always asking, do you understand what the author's saying and how they put their argument together? There won't be any questions that are, how do you feel about this passage? What ideas does it put in your head? It's really, what's there?
Is it still 3 hours long?
Yes, it is.
Same time frame, okay.
Yeah. We have a little section about how to sneak little inconspicuous snacks into the test center, even though they say you're not supposed to. But 3 hours is a long time.
And it's still the little page with the dots that you color in with the number 2 pencil, right?
They sure do, and even on that one, we've done some research on what's the fastest way to fill in one of those circles, because if you're doing it wrong, it could cost you a few seconds, and that could mean the difference between getting one more question right or not.
My fear was, I think a lot of students fear, that you may have put an answer in the wrong one, and you don't realize it until about 50 questions in, and then you're really in trouble.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that is, people do live in fear of that. We always just say, focus on pay attention to the number of the questions. So look, now I'm on question number 17. I'm going to go fill in the bubble for question number 17.
Is the SAT still considered the most important thing colleges look at? Or, I mean, it always will be part of it, but is it still number one?
Here's what I say. I think there are a lot of colleges that admit that it's the main thing that they're looking at. And then there are a bunch that say, no, we look at the whole student. We are taking a 360-degree perspective. But I'm always a little suspicious of that, because some of these are big schools that have to let thousands of kids in. And do they really have time to read every application in detail? And I also feel like when you read that application, you never know whether an adult helped with the essay and whether the recommendations are exaggerating and whether the clubs that the student says they were in, did they really even go? Mm-hmm. Whereas that SAT score is a big number kind of that is objective, and it's hard to imagine that it doesn't color everyone thinking about how ready that student is.
Well, this book will help a lot of nervous students, I'm sure. Again, it's called Up Your Score SAT 2016. We're talking with Larry Berger today. Larry, give out the website. People can get more information on the book.
Yeah, it's www.upyourscore.com, and there you can read a little more about the book and also figure out which bookstores in your neighborhood or which websites have the book.
Great. Larry, pleasure talking to you. I wish I had the book when I was in high school, but we'll hope to help kids today pass the test and get into a good college. Thanks for joining us.
That's what we like to hear. Thanks.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about,
Please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.